Yeah, hey, drop. Yeah, hey, drop. Yeah, hey, drop.
Every player on the ice has a 10-minute misconduct, among other penalties.
I have never.
Hold on. There, unmuted. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 10 Minute Misconduct. We got Aaron joining us tonight and one of our favorite all-time guests, Justin Schmit. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, guys?
Not much. We are excited to have you back. I know we have a ton of questions, but before we get started, really quick, I just want to give a shout out to Sam. He is another host. He will not be joining us tonight because his daughter has a performance. So we wish her the best of luck on that. And yeah, let's get things going. How is Topeka?
It's excellent. It's actually I played pretty much everywhere, but it's one of the best spots I've been at any level in my career. The town is really excited to have something there. Like as big of a spot as it is, there's not really much going on. So it's been a really positive experience since I got down there in May.
I think they've got, as far as branding wise, and you've been involved pretty much since the beginning, right? Like you were one of the first announcements, right? That you were going to be down there and you were going to be
Yeah,
involved. Can you take us through a little bit what's gone on with like the branding and stuff? Because I want to venture and say I think that Topeka's probably got some of the best branding of the whole Fed right now.
yeah. It was kind of a roller coaster, to be honest with you guys. I played for Robbie Nichols my rookie season for a brief period of time, and he he actually released me and sent me to Huntsville, Alabama, and I was there had 3 awesome years there, and it worked out. But I'd always go up and I'd be up and down with him in the old United League, so we always just remained close. And last year, when I was home in Quebec, we were in the middle of a playoff run, and it was kind of right after I went on a bit of a social media rant one day about, just the mismanagement of a couple organizations in the league. And my phone was blowing up, and I was like, oh shit, I kind of stirred the hornet's nest a little bit. And I didn't really need that distraction in the middle of a playoff run. So my phone was just nonstop. And I saw this number come up on my cell phone. I was having a pregame nap in Elmira, New York, and I was like, oh, it's probably someone's lawyer or something, you know what I mean? So I figured I better answer. Schmitty, it's Robbie Nichols. I was like, oh man, I haven't heard that voice in a long time. And he told me kind of the situation in Topeka, and I said, like, Robbie, I can't commit to anything right now. You know, we're in the middle of a playoff run. And he just, he was pretty persistent. And the night we won it was a Saturday. We won it on a Saturday night. And Robbie goes, I sent him a picture of me hoisting the cup, and I hadn't given him a yes or no answer yet. And I sent him a picture of me hoisting the cup, and he goes, yeah, I know, check your inbox. And I checked my inbox, and there's a plane ticket to Topeka from Montreal. So I had to leave like right after we won. I skated around with the cup a couple times, took my stuff off, and I was at the airport at 5:00 in the morning, and I flew into Topeka, and we had meetings all day, and then it was one of those things I couldn't really say no to. And then there's a picture of it. Yeah, it was really special. And then so I flew down to Topeka, and I spent a few days there, and then they hadn't actually announced the team name yet, or Robbie and myself as the coaching staff. So they had a press conference, they announced it. And then it was all summer. We stayed really busy. Some Saturdays Robbie and I were on the phone all day, just going over rosters and assembling this roster that we did. And I think it's paid dividends, our work ethic.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you how you celebrated the night that you won the cup, but since you told us you were on your way to Topeka, basically. The Scarecrows, I absolutely love the logo. In my opinion, it's the sickest logo in the league by far. And since you mentioned the roster, you guys personally are my dark horse pick for maybe going all the way to the cup this year. Do you have any predictions?
Well, obviously, like I never like to count chickens. Obviously, bingo's tough. The way we assembled our roster was, it was like, okay, the benchmark is bingo. We weren't like, we want to be competitive. We want to be competitive our expansion year. It was like the benchmark is bingo. And we have from May the 5th, I think I got to Topeka, and he's like, until, we basically have 365 days to assemble a championship roster. And we did really well in the expansion draft. Like we got some good picks from Motor City. And then, Robbie had made some really, really good trades. And then we were lucky because we play so many 3-3s. We just had 3 weeks off. So we played 8 games. We got to see where we kind of fit in to everything, and see where our weak points were, see what wasn't working, and then we had 3 weeks to go back to the drawing board. And it was almost like training camp 2.0, and we did a pretty big overhaul the last 3 weeks, and we brought in some really good players, and I think like our 3 lines would compete with anybody's first line. We got lots of depth now. So I think, now, especially with our travel schedule, it's going to be challenging for a lot of teams coming into Topeka for sure.
Absolutely. So you said that you were a part of being the assistant coach, going through and doing the expansion draft. Can you maybe for the fans go through a little bit of like what goes through your head and what do you look for other than just obviously stats have to do with it, but what are you looking into when you're
Um,
looking at who you want to grab?
more than stats, we wanted good people. Like I keep going back to our travel schedule, but like you want a pretty tight group around you if you're trapped in a aluminum tube for 200 days a year. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, good hockey players at this level are, they're relatively easy to find. There's good players floating around. But it was just making phone calls, and like, if I didn't know a guy personally, I guarantee I know someone who knows him personally. And it was just mostly finding out what type of character these guys had, That was the biggest thing. And that's always been the kind of the driving factor. And, as I've gotten into a more leadership role in my career, you win games in your locker room,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've noticed in the past, even from the time that we've met in Columbus, you always have a really good buddy or somebody you kind of mentor. Like, I know you had like Furball back in Elmira. Like, do you have somebody like that here in Topeka that you're kind of teaching?
Yeah, I got 18 of them.
18 of them this year.
Gordy Whalen. He's a young D man. He's got a lot of potential, and he's got a ton of charisma. And him and I spend probably the most time together. He lives with me. And then we just picked up a kid who was actually he was rookie of the year in the Southern League last year. Carson Gallagher's his name, and we just picked him up over the last couple weeks. And I've been, helping him maybe steer him left where I went right, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we got a good group of young guys, and like we have TJ Sneath's done a pretty awesome job helping me a lot. Scott Koash is another guy that's been around. Sammy Bernard. So we definitely have some veteran guys I can lean on a little bit. But the young guys we have are they're a really good group of kids.
Yeah.
I think that we've seen a lot of horror stories in the Fed of expansion teams, and they pick up all the good guys, they pick up whatever they get, and then we kind of see it fizzle out. Like, you don't see expansion teams sometimes take longer to set up and sometimes take longer to start looking successful, but it really seems like Topeka's hit the ground running. The record, like, you guys have really, you've been out in the community, you've made your footprint, you're all over the place, the branding's on point, you're all in Topeka's all in the face on Facebook. Their marketing's out there, and it really looks like it's going super well. What do you think Topeka is doing so right that maybe some of the other expansion teams didn't do so right?
I don't know, and I don't want to I don't want to say what somebody's doing wrong. But as far as what we're doing right, like Robbie Nichols, I've known him over half my life now. And he's kind of a marketing genius, really. Like, we're so out there in the community all the time, and like I said, the community was like, Topeka was hungry for something to jump on board. Like, it's a pretty big, it's the capital city of Kansas, but there's nothing for 100 miles. But every day we got guys at schools. We got guys doing promos. We got, we're shooting TV ads every day. And I think the biggest thing is obviously being out in the community, but the product we're putting on the ice, like, it's we sold out our opening weekend. And it was a good event. Like, even people that weren't, if you weren't a hockey fan, it was exciting. There was something to watch. It was quite a show. it was funny. I was suspended for our home opener too. And Robbie's like, well, there goes the last 6 months of marketing we did for the home opener. And I was suspended.
That's funny. Yeah, I think
Very
I saw, was
Fed
it like
esque.
10,000 for the 2 days for Friday and Saturday? That's phenomenal for an opening, a
Yeah.
home opener for a new team. That's incredible.
And even even Halloween was on a Friday this year, and like typically Halloween night anywhere I've played is kind of a quiet night just because families are out trick-or-treating and whatnot, you know what I mean? But I think we still had 4,500 in there that night, you know.
That's
And then
awesome.
the Saturday we were well up around 6,000, I think. So, you know, like I said, there's just the people are really excited, and like everywhere I go, like if I go to Walmart, I'm at the stage in my life where I kind of prefer to, kind of be, in the, I don't know, say in the shadows or in the peripheral, but I don't need the attention, you know what I mean? But everywhere we go, whether it's Walmart or to the grocery store, you know, at the gas station, everyone's coming up and shaking your hand and good luck, man. I saw you on TV, you know, and
Aw.
I haven't, it's been a long time since I've been a part of, like, since the community's been that much on board. Like in Columbus, we had a loyal diehard fan base. You know, we had a big fan base, but like there was a lot of people in Columbus that didn't know that there was hockey there.
Mhm.
When I was in Huntsville, you know, the first couple years that the Havoc were in existence, and that would be, you know, it's comparable to what we got going on in Topeka, you know, and I mean now 20 years later, there's so much more you can generate so much more attention. Like I think my first couple years in the minors, we still had dial-up internet, you know.
Yeah. So I have a question. I'm hoping there's some new Topeka fans tuning in. So if they haven't got to know you, is Tub Talk coming back ever?
No, I don't think so. They're pretty strict on my social media game. It's pretty well monitored. I got to I I had to sign that I would avoid any type of political talk and any naked conversations in a bathtub.
Yeah. That's okay. That's fair.
It did have a pretty big media following there for a while. I actually got approached by a few like comedy networks, I guess, or comedy shows about, you know, the potential of producing something like that. But my mom finally unblocked me on social media, so I'm trying to keep it that way, you know.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe Tub Talk Tuesdays in the future could be a thing, you know, maybe down the
Maybe
road. But speaking of
maybe someday.
comedy, are you still doing any stand-up at all? Or is that
No,
no?
it's I talk about it, but it was something that I always kind of wanted to try, but well, right now my hands are, I'm so busy, but I didn't love it. You know, it was
Yeah.
the anxiety I get before fighting a man is like not even comparable to the anxiety I get before standing on a stage with a microphone trying to make a whole bunch of blank faces laugh.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I feel like I would freak out.
Yeah, and it really, it was a cool thing, and it was a lot of fun, and it kind of, I think it pushed my boundaries as far as like, public speaking and what I was comfortable saying. And like, it definitely, when I'm nervous, I can clam up a little bit, and you don't have a choice when you're standing on a stage in front of 50 people or 100 people in a bar. Like, no matter how much your palms are sweating, you got to try and make those people laugh, So it definitely was something that I definitely had some spiritual and social growth through it. But yeah, it wasn't as much fun as some people make it look.
Yeah.
So Anna and I had a little bit of an idea earlier about doing a little rapid fire quick session of going through. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and we just want you to answer with who from the Topeka Scarecrows best fits the following questions, and it'll make more sense. But I
Okay.
figure we'll start off with a nice one. Who smells the
Okay.
best on the team?
Oh, well, with the exception of myself, I don't smell good. Probably TJ Sneath, I would have to say, because he was my roommate on the road. We probably spend the most time together. My biggest, if you guys didn't know that, my biggest like phobia in the world is smelling bad. So I'm always like, I always try to be the best smelling person in the room.
I did not
Nice.
know that.
I
I
didn't
just was
either.
like, I
Oh
guess I'd
man,
like to know this.
bad breath and bad BO are like, I think I'd rather be missing a limb than have halitosis.
Yeah, it wasn't until living with hockey players that I understood that the smell of a hockey player after a game or practice is it's a whole different level. So
Yeah,
I mean that's a
yeah,
fair fear. Okay, so who
yeah.
would you say is the most bougie on the team?
What does that mean?
Bougie, like
Like high maintenance?
high maintenance,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Has to have the finer things.
oh,
Gotta be
Look
oh,
brand
good.
name.
Yeah, the
Gotta
name
look good.
oh,
brands.
Has
oh,
to have the
yeah.
best.
Um, Geez. I think probably Zach Papapetros. He's he like well until he lost his front four the other night. He had
Oh,
a pretty like
4?
yeah, he got a stick in the
Oh
mouth.
man.
Um,
Damn.
yeah, he had some pretty white teeth. He's always well dressed. Gordy Whalen too. Gordy always he's always very, very presentable. But I don't think I would never saddle Gordy with being high maintenance, and not that Zach is either. But yeah, Zach's definitely. He's always got really nice stuff on. He has a really nice vehicle. He's always well put together for sure.
Who would you let date your sister
I don't have a sister, but
if you had a sister?
who would I? Oh, Gordy Whalen for sure. No, I've actually had this conversation with people, and my daughter, I guess I got a 16-year-old daughter. Yeah, I'd let Gordy date my daughter. I actually, once she becomes of age, I might actually kind of push them in that direction together, maybe.
Who would you not let date your daughter? Or not your, well, we'll go with daughter this time. Who would you not let date your
Wow.
daughter if she was of legal
Oh,
age? Say she was
um,
25 and it was a different situation.
yeah, probably Danny Brizgalov, the Russian goalie, or yeah, probably Danny. I would say I'm going around the room. I'm trying to like look at faces as how they sit with me in the dressing room. Probably Danny. He's a little wild. He's kind of a throwback to how the Russians were when I first started coming up. Because when I first came to the minors, like there was a lot of old Russians that had, came from the old Soviet Union even. So when they came to North America, they got a taste of freedom. So they were pretty wild. And then as I got later on in my career, the Russians kind of tamed down a little bit, I guess. But yeah, Briz is he's kind of a throwback to that generation. So I probably wouldn't let him date my daughter.
How about the prankster? Who's the one that's always pranking everyone on the team?
Oh man. These are good questions, you guys. Um,
Thanks.
yeah, I would say Quinn O'Reilly, a young rookie from Wichita. His old man actually retired my rookie year. I played like so I would have played against his old man.
Oh, no
Um,
kidding.
but he's a kid. He's from Wichita, and yeah, he's always got something up his sleeve. He sits next to me in the dressing room. I think he's a little bit scared of me, but yeah, he definitely always has something on the go. Eli Wilson too. Eli's a pretty funny kid. He's I've known him for a long time. You know, he's been in the league for 3 or 4 years now, and Eli's a really funny kid.
Who would you trust to watch your dog?
Oh man, you know what I would probably trust every one of them. TJ's a dog
That's good.
lover, like myself. Avery Smith too. I've It's funny because Avery and I, you know, we used to have some pretty serious battles when we played against each other. And you know, as the story goes all the time, right? The guys you have the biggest issue with when you're playing against them usually you become closest to when you're on the same team. But yeah, he's a dog lover or an animal lover like myself.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add for the Topeka fans that don't know Justin super well yet, you are a huge dog lover. Even with my dog 2 years ago when he had his scare, you know, you checked in on him multiple times, and we know you rescued Jenny. And I think you were even in the arena in Columbus with a baby goat, I think. Is that right? Was it
Yeah,
the baby
yeah,
goat?
and I did have a baby goat, and I was introducing him as my dog. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that.
you had a
Uh,
sleepover with a
I
big old
almost ended up
pig.
had a pig. Yeah. I almost rescued a kitten this morning. We stopped at a Waffle House somewhere on the other side of the river, like just across the river from Baton Rouge, and we were at a truck stop, and I was coming to a Waffle House at 7:15 this morning, and there was a baby kitten, like a tiny little kitten,
He was
and it,
small.
and
He
he
was
and he
itty bitty.
he almost got ran over, and you know there's so many. You know, he would have got ran over. There's no way he was going to make it across that parking lot. But there's so many gators and snakes and shit down here. Um, so I picked him up, and like he was just nestled into me, and I was like, hey, what? I wasn't getting on the bus till I figured out a solution. And I was hoping that his mama would come around, and I was wandering around trying to see a stray mom cat, and I couldn't find it. And then you know, I've never been a cat owner. We had barn cats growing up, but I've never had a house cat before, so I don't really know what to do with them. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go buy him some milk. But then I researched that, and like pasteurized cow milk will kill them.
Oh wow, I
So
didn't know that.
I
so
didn't know it either.
yeah, it's not very good for when they're kittens. Um, so I went in and talked to the two ladies that worked at the truck stop, and they were the kindest, sweetest old girls, and they made him a little box and got him some water, and they put it outside, but they made it so he couldn't climb out of the box, and they put it like it was just sure they put it outside, and they said that there is a mom cat that's around there that they feed, so maybe she was off hunting or something. So hopefully, but the lady said if at the end of her shift the little kitten was still there, she was going to take him home with her. So
Oh,
hopefully he
good.
Aw.
hopefully hopefully he lives to a ripe old age for a stray cat in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yeah, and he was orange too. You don't see them, you know, as much. But yeah, when I saw him in your hand, I was like actually shocked when you moved. I could
Oh,
see how small he really was.
he was tiny, like you know, he was still kind of unsure of walking, and you know, they got that like when they first open their eyes, they got that glazed over kind of look in their eyes, where their eyes still aren't, you know, they can't really see things. So yeah, he was going to be vulture food or alligator
Mm.
food. So hopefully his mama found him and took him back to somewhere warm.
speaking of
hope
gators
so.
and snakes, is it you guys have Zydeco? Is that right? Coming up this weekend
Yeah,
series. So
yeah.
what challenges do you think Topeka is going to face coming into Baton Rouge?
Um, they, I know, I know a lot of the Baton Rouge guys. I played with them a lot in my career. Um, they move the puck really well. They got a dangerous. Their top six forwards are dangerous and can sting you. So I think our biggest challenge is obviously coming off a 3 week break. Hopefully there's no rust. I mean, we practiced every day, but just be not having that game rhythm. And they're the type of team that can sting you early. And if we take a period or two, to get our feet back under us, it could be a pretty lopsided score by then. Um, Obviously, coming down from Topeka, we got pretty good ice there, and I mean, all our road games have been in Port Huron and Indiana. So being down in the swamp, like today, we practiced, and I told the boys, I said, I don't ever want to hear you guys complain about the ice in Topeka again. It's it's challenging playing in the South. I think there's something to be said for Florida teams winning the cup
Yeah,
so often is because they get used to playing on shitty ice all the time.
right.
So from Topeka to Baton Rouge is about 14 hours. I'm sure with you guys being on the bus, it was a hell of a lot more than 14. Well, it's a
Yeah,
fed bus, so maybe some less, but
it was we left Topeka at 5 yesterday. Um and I guess we got into Waffle House about 6. So yeah, about 13 hours. It was um it wasn't too bad, but we didn't really like we kind of cut down. So we came down to Tulsa, and then we kind of skirted across Arkansas, and then at Texarkana, we headed down to Shreveport, and then so we never were really on the interstate. So I built a big fort in the back of the bus, and I can usually sleep pretty good. But just constant turning, and like I said, on the interstate, it's just a straight shot. But just being on side roads all night, I didn't have the best sleep. But yeah, we did it in 13 hours door to door, I guess.
what the heck do you do to pass the time on a 13-hour bus trip other than sleep?
That's it.
Oh my gosh.
I can't. I've been I've had my fair share of shots to the head in my life. So like staring at my phone on the bus, within 5 minutes I have like a blinding migraine. If it's daylight out, I'll read, and I'll do some journaling. Usually throw on a movie. But for like most guys now are glued to their phones. Um, I usually find someone. I'm a big conversationalist, so I usually try and sit down with a teammate that I don't get to have deep conversations with, and usually try to pick his brain on a few topics and stuff. And then I'm pretty seasoned at sitting on a bus, and they said I've got it down. Even if it's not a sleeper, I can build a pretty good fort in between the seats where I crawl into my cave, and I'm out for the most part.
You might have to take some pictures and show us what this bus fort looks like. I
Yeah,
think that will be
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture tomorrow. Yeah, it was funny. I was talking with Sammy Bernard last night, and I said, like, guys in the NHL, travel by charter, and I've been fortunate enough to charter a few times in my career. But like, I'm still doing this at 40 years old, and I wouldn't trade it for a thing. Like some people, some people work, you know, work, 60 years of their life to retire and do what they want. But I've been doing what I want now for over half my life. And, even being stuck on a bus somewhere in the middle of Louisiana, there's nowhere else I'd rather be.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from a fan's point of view, I know we're still stoked to see you on the ice and, get to see you every weekend play. We have a question for you in the comments. Really quick, if you guys are just tuning in, if you subscribe to our channel, you can ask Justin any questions in the chat. And right before I ask you this question, really quick from our sponsors, Matraca Time, we have a quick clip that we want to show. But basically, they're noisemakers. They're made from broken hockey sticks, and I know I don't go to a game without mine. So can you put that clip up for us really quick?
Let's go!
Oh man, those would be irritating, wouldn't they?
I love them.
Holy smokes. Those would drive me mental if I was on the road.
Yeah, they're loud, and I love them.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
We get them made from our billet sticks every year, and we usually have them made for their parents too, for like Christmas. So they're pretty special. But so just shout out to Matraca Time. We'll drop their Etsy store in the link. Make sure you check them out. So over to the comments, we have a question from, where did it go? Reese Newkirk. Ask him about his billets in Estevan.
Oh man, that's
Estevan.
funny. So Reese is in Orlando in the East Coast League. He's he's probably 25. He was drafted by the Islanders, spent his, the majority of his entry level contract in the American League.
Wow.
And then he's been up and down from the East Coast in the East Coast League and the American League for the last few years. Great. He's got more talent in his pinky than I have in my whole body, but he was his mom and dad, Reese was 2 years old and I was 17, and they billeted me my first year junior. And his mom and dad, Brad and Candace, were tremendous people. They were, I was, just a kid, and they took me basically off the street and looked after me. And at the end of the year, I've never told this story on a podcast. So the end of the year, I was 17, and there was a snowstorm, and I was like, yeah, well, maybe some of the boys would like to come over, have a couple beers. His mom and dad were gone for the weekend. The season was over, and it turned into absolute chaos. Ended up like it was horrible. I still feel so bad about it to this day. They get a call on vacation that the police are at their house, and it was almost like that that movie where the kid throws a party and burns down the neighborhood.
Oh, I just saw that movie like a few months ago. I can't remember what was it, Party X or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, it was one. And it was one of those things that just happened innocent enough. It was like, yeah, and then back in them days, there was no internet or anything, so it was just word of mouth, right? And all of a sudden, everybody just started showing up. And eventually the SWAT team had to come in and break it up. And I felt so bad. And his mom and dad are such great people, they're very understanding and stuff. And it was one of those things. It was one of the toughest things in the world. But then I went up to the Western League as an 18-year-old. And, we've always stayed very, very close. And then when I got married, when I was 21 or 22, Reese was the ring bearer at my wedding. And then, I've always remained very close to his mom and dad. They're like a second family to me. And then, so it'd always be, I stayed with them a few summers too. I lived there, and, as I got older, after I got divorced, even I spent a couple summers with them. And then Reese ended up going to play in the Western League and put up a couple 100-point seasons in the dub. And he was drafted by the Islanders. But it was funny, on his draft day, his dad sent me a picture of like a stick or something I'd autographed for him 17 years ago. And, now here's this kid getting drafted to the NHL, which is really special to me, for me to be able to see him doing as well as he is in his career. I'm so proud of him. And then he's got another little brother, Caleb, great big tall kid. He's down south here somewhere on a baseball scholarship. So I'd like to say I had a little bit of a hand in where their competitive nature came from.
Well, shout out to you, Reese, and the Billet family. I love hearing stories like that. I know I absolutely love my Billets, and I'm close with most of them and their families. And I just think it's really cool, like 2 decades later, that you guys are still in contact. And man, 2 years old to ring bearer to the NHL that's pretty epic.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I always think about maybe if I can just hang on another 10 years or so when he's in his 30s and he topples all the way down to this level, maybe we'll be able to get to play a game or two together, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm probably going to pronounce this girl's name wrong, and she's going to be so mad at me because I love her so much. But Shahayla has a question
Oh, you got
and
that
said,
right.
if you could draft anyone in the league currently, who would you draft and why?
If I could draft, that's not on my team
That's not
currently.
already on the team.
Geez, I wasn't expecting that. There's a lot of good players. It's a tough one. Probably, I think the player that's the hardest to play against in this league is Gavin Yates from Binghamton. I think, he's been MVP of the playoffs numerous times, and he's one of those players that can just, when Gavin wants to, he can absolutely take over a game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We have another question from John Altman. He wants to know if you have a rough idea of how many fights you've had in the Fed.
Geez, I've had over 150 in my pro career. Regular season, that's not counting training camp and playoff and exhibition. I'm trying to think. I think probably in 4 years, maybe 50. I was really, when I was in Columbus, especially, I was pretty active, and there was, everybody had a few more older tough guys, like Dan Amesbury was still in the league, and Joe Pace and myself had a saga.
Yes.
Nick Williams, Gino Mini. There was a lot of guys early on that really inflated those numbers. But
man, they were all Port Huron players at that time, weren't they?
Yeah, because we played my first year in Columbus. We played Port Huron 19 times or something.
Oh wow!
I spent 2 Christmases on the bus coming back from Port Huron, but it was those ones, especially the ones with Joe. Um, Obviously they weren't staged, um, but we had one or two or like we had like a I think we played 3-3, and it was when Mississippi or Biloxi when they had those neutral site games in Biloxi, and they had these big crowds, and we had like three bloodbaths, and it got a lot of media attention, and started attracting people to the league a little bit, I think. And then there was, with Dan Amesbury and myself and the whole Ice Wars thing. So there was a lot of guys early on, my first couple, 2 or 3 years where it was like every weekend I was going 3 or 4 times. But over the last couple years in the league, it's definitely my numbers have definitely shrunk. I went, halfway through last year, I went to Quebec, and that league's pretty notorious for being a tough league, and like it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Not even in the old Central League days or the old United League days when guys were, when each team had 10 or 12 guys. It was pretty wild in Quebec. I think in 9 games in Quebec I had 16 majors or something.
Do you have any plans for future fights off ice, like Ice Wars or bare knuckle or anything? I know that was kind of your thing for a little bit.
No, to be honest with you guys, my body just hurts too much to. I still love competing and bringing that physical element to the game and sticking up for my teammates and generating momentum or whatever. But I'm not fighting for myself. It just I've never been able to. Even I was boxing when I was a little guy. I never was really able to bring what I could. When I'm fighting for my team, it comes from a different place. But when I'm prize fighting, even when it was some really good paydays, if even though you have your trainers and stuff around you, but it's not the same thing. And I'm at the point in my life where if I'm gonna do something that hurts as much as it still does, I'm gonna do it out of love, I guess, not for a paycheck.
Yeah.
Unless Jake Paul's offering a 7-figure payday, maybe. But I there's a guy in Topeka that I've gotten to know. He's the number 9 ranked heavyweight in the world right now. John Cantrell's his name, and I got to know him a little bit, and we go to the Beth and I started going to his church. He's a minister in Topeka, and I've been a Catholic my whole life, but and I'll always be Catholic, but I started just kind of expanding my ways of worship, I guess, and so I've been going to church with him and doing a little bit of work in the community. But I've been helping him a little bit. He's got a title fight December 13th, and it actually felt good to just be back holding pads for a fighter and just working with fighters, because I did that too. Like I owned a boxing gym for a long time, and I definitely miss that element of combat sports. Being able to help guys. But for me to step inside the squared circle again, it would take a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you've done a hell of a lot with your life. You've been a rodeo clown, you've fought countless men on with knife shoes as a hockey player, like you've done so much. You've traveled the world doing the sport that you love. You've fought professionally, you've played professionally, you've done all of the things. Is there anything that you haven't done yet in your life that you want to do?
Oh yeah, like there's, I don't know, I've always, the older I've gotten, the more I've became somewhat of a minimalist, I guess. I love living, to be honest with you guys. I love just meeting new people, seeing new places. Um, I mean, the one goal I do have, I'd like to. My brother and I were going to ride a tandem bike across Canada last summer, and then he broke his leg.
Oh wow.
It was like right before too. It
Yeah,
was,
I
and it was,
remember watching the
and it
updates on
was, it
getting
was,
ready.
it was such a freak accident, So we were getting all this attention, because we were going to go for this record, and it kind of got a little bit more inflated than we had anticipated, and it was like, hey, holy shit, like this is around the corner, and he's an airline pilot, and he just was running on the treadmill in a hotel where he had a layover and like stress fractured his shin, and it
Oh
was
my
like, wow,
goodness.
that's if that's not God telling you that it's probably not the right time, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
And then, now with just, we got so much on the go, like, especially me being down in Topeka and trying to help get this organization off the ground. And then he's with Air Canada now, and his daughter's 3 years old, and him and his wife just built a new house. So like, for us to do it the way, not even that we wanted to do it, it's just for it to maximize its potential, we kind of got to be all in, just as far as like fundraising, because we're going to do big, it was going to be a big mental health fundraiser and stuff. So for us to, it's something that we definitely want to do. But yeah, I've been really blessed in my life to, maybe I was just blessed with this like attitude where, like, if I want to do something, I'm gonna go do it. And I've missed out on a lot of things, like I've basically, missed out on my kids growing up because I was, playing hockey in the minors. And so there are things that I didn't get to experience. But no, I mean, every day I get to be on this side of the grass is pretty cool. And every I want to continue to live as long as I can, just keep experiencing what the world has to offer.
I think your story is a big inspiration to a lot of players. And so before we wrap up, I just want to say I'm grateful that you come on the show. Like, we have you on every season. I always really look forward to it and appreciate our friendship. If you could say anything to the next generation or maybe a player that is struggling, what is the biggest advice to help them push through?
Jeez, I think I ask myself this a lot. Probably just, keep on going. And, because I look at, the darkest periods of my life. And, some of them were some pretty extended chapters of my life. But it does get better, whatever it is, whether you're having a bad day, a bad week, you're struggling with addiction, you've lost somebody you love, you've had death in your life. Time heals and time changes everything, and just have that persistence and that patience. If I knew if I knew as much now as I thought I knew when I was 20, I'd be doing pretty good, you know.
Yeah, same. Aaron, do you have any final questions?
With that, I think that's pretty much what I had going in there.
Okay.
But thank you so much. Thanks for talking with us. I appreciate it.
No,
It's always a pleasure.
I I was really happy when Anna had messaged me because I was that was when I had that cold that we were talking about. You know, I was dying. I was like, "There's no way I can do this tonight." And then I think we had a date for December or something.
Hmm.
And then when you messaged me and said we could make it work, and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect because you know we'll be on the road, so I'm not going to be pulled away like, oh man, all of a sudden you got to go to an event in Topeka or something." It worked out perfect. You know, we got off the ice, we went to the hotel, we had a bite to eat, and then I was able to sign in and kind of give it the attention that it deserves. So I'm really grateful for how it worked out.
Me
Yeah,
too.
we are too. And if any of your scarecrows ever want to come on, just tell them to reach out. We would love to help the community get to know them better and for us to get to know you guys better too. So,
Sure,
um,
yeah. I'll like I said, the biggest thing, yeah, just reach out. We got a lot of really cool kids with some unique stories, you know. Everybody's life experience is so different, you know, and it's we got some really neat kids on our team.
yeah, well, I know we'd love to hear it. We could even bring a couple of them on at the same time. I know we haven't done a crossover episode like we did that one year with you and gosh, it was Amesy and Pacer and
Pacer and
Ryan.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We might have to do like a 2.0 version. That was a lot of fun.
That was fun, yeah, for sure.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you so much. And
Yeah, you
yeah,
guys. Well, yeah, yeah. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll talk to you guys real soon. Thanks so much for having me on.
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks
We're
for
pulling
coming.
for you over in Zydeco.
Oh, awesome. Take care, you guys.
Bye.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.